What's up guys, I'm Jordan Bertnoli, and in this video I'm going to talk about being safe in a Lyft both from the driver's perspective and from the passenger's perspective. First off, I want to talk about drivers. If you are a driver or you're thinking about being a driver, it's probably crossed your mind before that there could be times when you're going to feel unsafe in a Lyft and you might not want to experience that, or you might not know how to handle that. So I'm just going to go over some quick tips on how you can stay safe no matter what the incident is. The first one is you need to carry pepper spray. Now, a lot of people carry pepper spray anyways, but you want to have one that's in your vehicle. That way you're not going to forget it at home. It's not going to be on a keychain that you have to get out of your pocket. It's not going to be hard to access for any reason. It's not in the trunk, nothing like that. I personally keep this one right here in my center console. It's easy to access that way. I'm right-handed. It's right at arm's length. For my right hand. I can grab it in an instant. I know exactly where it is. There's nothing on top of it, but it's also hidden at the same time. There's just a cover so that the passenger doesn't see it, but I can pull it out quickly. Pepper spray that you choose is important. This one's a Sabre Red Defense Spray. It does have an expiration date. This one lasts until 2022. That's something you want to consider when you get one. But the brand matters. I did quite a bit of research to find which ones work well. I read comments from people who said that they used on themselves and they, gave a description of the sensation. Some other brands, they were not very effective. People said that they've used them on, dogs that were attacking, and the dog seemed unfazed. That's not a good sign. You want to have one that's trusted, that people have used and experienced with, and you want to have it work when you need it to work. This is the one I use. You can see it's got the nozzle there, and then the finger just goes right back here. It lifts up the lid and you can press down, it'll spray. I believe this one has about a 15-foot range, which is really the benefit of pepper spray, is that you don't have to be super close to someone to use it. And then I think it has like 20 charges or something like that. I've only used this once to test it. I've never used it on anyone. Next up, I'm going to talk about having a fire extinguisher in your vehicle. I use this fire extinguisher. It's the one that Lyft gave me when I signed up. I think that they've gone through a couple different brands, but this is the current one that they're giving out right now. It says it's good for electrical, fabric, wood fires, grease fires, or auto fires. Obviously, you would have this for an auto fire. You want to have it in some place in the vehicle where you can easily access it, have access to it no matter what happens. Meaning you don't want it in the trunk, you don't want it under anything, you don't want it in a place where if there's a fire you might burn yourself to get to it. And use it as soon as possible if you have a fire. Even if it's just the smallest smoke coming out under the hood, you want to open it up and use this right away. It could end up saving you a lot of money in the long run. Yeah, and your health and your passenger's health. So absolutely use this as soon as possible, and like I said, keep it close to you. Next up is a first aid kit. Again, I use the one that Lyft gave me. As you can see it right here. This one has antiseptic, it has gauze, and it has band-aids, so it's pretty basic. It would do the trick if you had like a small injury for your passenger. I don't recommend carrying anything really large, or I don't even think it's necessary, because if there is something that needs like immediate medical attention with you or your passenger, you want to call 911. I would not try and rely on something in your car and do it yourself unless you are a medical expert. So all you need is the basics, band-aids, gauze, and antiseptic. That's pretty much all you need. And then from the passenger's point of view, let's say that you get in the Lyft and you don't feel comfortable. You can always end the ride. Let me say that one more time. You can always end the ride at any moment, no matter what. It's your money. You are the customer. You deserve the best. If you get in a Lyft and you don't feel comfortable, get out of it. If you need to ask them to pull over, get out of it. Tell them, I want to pull over. I want you to stop right now. Sometimes it's not the best place to pull over, and that's okay. You can ask them to pull over in a better place. But if you don't feel comfortable in a Lyft ride, don't be in a Lyft ride. It's that simple. It's the same thing with if you were riding with a friend that you didn't feel comfortable with, or if you were riding, you got picked up by anybody at any taxi or any other service and you were feeling uncomfortable, you can always refuse to be taken anywhere. It's your right, and you need to know that. You don't need to compromise your safety. You don't need to be nice to them because you think that they're being unsafe. Just end the ride. It's that serious. So speaking from experience, there were a couple times that I didn't feel 100% comfortable with the Lyft ride as a driver, and I'm just going to speak about those for a minute. But before I say that, I want to note that I've given 400 Lyft rides now, and I've never had a truly bad experience. I've never had anyone disrespect my vehicle. I've never had anyone throw up. I've never had anyone threaten me or even be really rude to me. So if you're thinking about being a Lyft driver, that's what you could probably expect. I guess it might change from area to area, but I live in a big city and I drive through all neighborhoods, and the people who use the service are generally nice people. But I have experienced some people who are either so drunk that they might be behaving in a way they normally would not. And I've also experienced some people who I wasn't quite sure if they were the correct rider. So let me talk about that for a second. If someone gets in your vehicle and you don't think they're the right person, you don't have to drive them anywhere, and it's absolutely fine to question them to make sure that they are the correct person. So one of the ways that I do that is when they first get in the vehicle, I always ask them, or I should say, I say to them, hi, and then fill in their name, right? So hi, Julia, hi, Mark, welcome. That way you can get an immediate response from them when usually they'll say back to me, hi, Jordan, because they saw my name on their phone. If they don't say hi, Jordan, if they say a different name, then obviously they've gotten in the wrong car, and that does happen from time to time, especially if you're at like a busy intersection where there's lots of people getting in and out of cars. One time I did have a gentleman get in my car. It was during a snowstorm, and the gentleman got in my car. He was clearly male, but the ride request was from a clearly female name. So I thought that's kind of strange, So I asked him if he was that person, and he said yes. And I just didn't believe him. It just didn't add up. And I said, where are you going? And that's when he said that he didn't speak English. So again, I thought it was just really strange. Like, he didn't know where he was going. He's claimed not to speak English, and he didn't have the correct name. So I thought for sure he was not the right person. So what I did was I called the person who placed the Lyft request, and it turned out that it was his boss, and that because of the snowstorm, she was getting him a Lyft home, which is totally reasonable. And that's what the service is for, obviously. But just I took that extra step to call her, and she was really thankful. And in the end, she ended up tipping me pretty well. So that might happen to you if you drive frequently enough, and you just need to be aware of it. And that's when you need to, call the person who placed the ride request and just confirm that you have the correct person in the car. So from a passenger's perspective, part of safety is making sure that your driver's taking you the right way. There's almost no reason why the driver should take an alternate route unless the app thinks they should, and it gives them a route that's an alternate route because of traffic or an accident or a bridge is up or construction, something like that. If none of those things are happening and you can see on the app that your driver's taking the wrong route, you should definitely ask them why they're not taking the correct route. And if they don't have a good explanation for it, you should ask them to turn around and take the good, fastest route for you to go. If the driver takes the wrong route and you're unaware of it until you get there and you realized your bill was higher than it should have been, what you can do is you can actually recalculate the route right there in the app, and then Lyft will charge you for what it should have been versus what it was. This is a great system because it eliminates any sort of incentive for the driver to go the wrong way to make the ride fare higher. This is something you should use whenever possible. I've personally haven't experienced drivers taking the wrong route on purpose, but I've heard of it happening to other people. So yeah, part of your safety is making sure you're going the right way. So if you have any questions about that, definitely let Lyft know and recalculate your rides if you don't think it was done correctly. So another big part of driver safety is getting the rider there on time without speeding. Now, I think a lot of drivers out there are willing to fudge the rules or drive in a way that's a little bit more erratic to get the passenger there on time. I don't recommend that at all. You shouldn't take shortcuts, not in life, not with Lyft, never. When you're taking someone to a distance that obviously you're not going to get them there on time for whatever that means to them, maybe they've got an appointment or a meeting or something, they're trying to catch a plane. It's not going to pay off to speed. It's not going to pay off to weave through traffic. It's not going to pay off to drive in the shoulder. It's not going to pay off to maneuver your way through a parking lot. And I know there's going to be times when you're going to think you could do that and get away with it. But getting them there safely is so much more valuable in the long run than getting them there fast and ending up with an accident or getting pulled over. Luckily, I've never been pulled over by a police officer while driving for Lyft, but imagine how embarrassing that would be, and how you could potentially get a low score and even get contacted by Lyft for, making a mistake like that. So, yes, your one rider may be unhappy if they get there and they're late, but at least you got them there safely and you get to keep your job. And the same goes for passengers. Don't ask your driver to speed. Don't ask them to do something illegal. You're putting them in a difficult situation where you have power with the money and the tip, and they want to do something to make you happy, but you don't want to risk their car. Remember, it's their property. They're taking the time out of the day to drive you. You should only expect them to drive safely, nothing else. Okay, seatbelts. Do I even need to say it? Yes, there are people who are both driving without seatbelts and riding without seatbelts. That's crazy. If you pick up a passenger and they do not have their seatbelt on, do not move the car until they put their seatbelt on. If you establish with them right off the bat that you're not going to drive unless they put the seatbelt on, you're going to have much more control than you start driving and you realize they don't have the seatbelt on, and then you need to ask them, at which point you've already started driving and they feel like they can get away with it. Just do it right off the bat. Save yourself the hassle. Another part of safety that often gets overlooked is getting enough sleep before you go out driving. You might end up driving for 10 hours or more if you have the time to do it and you want to do it and you start to see the money pile up. But even though Lyft allows you to drive for 14 hours straight before you have to take a 6-hour break, you shouldn't drive for 14 hours straight if you're sleepy. You could get an accident. You could get pulled over. You could get a bad rating from your riders. I've heard from my passengers telling me that they've had drivers in the past that were driving for a long period of time and were bragging about how they were going on not very much sleep. That's just a bad idea. You don't look professional. You don't come across as a serious person. You should take your business seriously because it is a business. You should take your car seriously and you should take your own health seriously. Get enough sleep. So that's all for this video. If you have any more questions about being a Lyft driver or how to drive safely or being a passenger or anything else, leave them down below. Thanks for subscribing.